Over 8,000 Kroger workers in Colorado have gone on strike as of yesterday. They work at a number of different stores in the area, and there had been negotiations going on with the corporation that have apparently broken down, and now this massive strike is ongoing. So for context, the union turned down Kroger's final offer, which would have boosted starting pay to $16 an hour and raised the hourly rate by as much as $4.50 in the first year. It also included ratification bonuses of $4,000 for workers with at least 10 years of experience and $2,000 for more recent hires. But the grocery chain in turn rejected a union plan that included a $6 per hour wage increase and, importantly, new security requirements. Protocols sought in the aftermath of a mass shooting at a King Superstore in Boulder last year. And so they're, obviously worried for their safety. And well, they should be, not only from the attacks, but also grocery stores have been places where lots of workers have gotten COVID. It is a dangerous thing to be an essential worker in this time. We don't know how this is gonna shake out, Caroline, but unions have had some impressive wins over the past few months. So I can see them being emboldened by that.
Yeah, absolutely, and as they very much should be. And there was a study that was released recently that said 14% of Kroger workers have been homeless in the past year, and almost like 34% skip or reduce meals. Which, to be a grocery store worker and you can't even afford groceries or put food on your table, is despicable. And of course, the CEO is making like $20 million a year. And actually in LA, like firsthand experience, so they ended their $2, basically at the beginning of the pandemic. For 2 months, they gave a $2 an hour raise. And then as soon as it was like, oh, this pandemic is longer than 2 months, never mind. So they slashed that. And then they literally had to close, instead of keeping that hazard pay, they closed many stores across the country, and the Food for Less near me in Los Angeles just shut it down right in the middle of the pandemic. And that was a grocery store that many low income people would shop at. And rather than keeping that $2 per hour pay raise for grocery store workers in a pandemic, rather than sustaining that, they shut down entire stores that are now just sitting empty. I mean, it's just top to bottom an absolute failure. But yeah, I think the recent strike waves across the country do bode well for this contract, the union contract.
Definitely, especially with so many people being involved. That's going to be a difficult one for them to, in the short term, break through. I wanted to give a little bit more details about, you had mentioned a poll of some of the workers that have been done. So this is an economic roundtable poll, and the numbers are just amazing here. So they talked to 10,000 different workers in Colorado, California, and Washington. They found 70% of respondents work only part-time, with many working erratic schedules, so they can't have a second job even if they want to. 2/3 said they couldn't afford basic monthly expenses. 39% couldn't afford groceries. 14% said they'd experienced homelessness in the past year, and more than 1/3 said they're currently worried about being evicted. And look, obviously, if we were outside of the pandemic, that would help a little bit in some of this, but that would not wholly close this gap. And this is interesting additional information about the horrible circumstance that so many people who are literally trying to just work, they're trying to do everything that they've told that they're supposed to do, but even doing it, they don't feel economically secure. And you can add that on to, past information about how much the federal government effectively subsidizes companies like Walmart through social services, because people aren't paid enough to actually live. They're working full time, but they can't actually live on that money. And so it is not just a Walmart thing, other chains as well. So we'll have to see how these negotiations go on. Like we've been saying throughout this, there's been some successes recently, and thankfully there are some politicians who are standing, with these efforts. Bernie Sanders, in response to the Kroger announcement, put out a tweet saying, "I stand in solidarity with the workers at Kroger in Colorado. If Kroger can afford to pay its CEO over $20 million and spend $1 billion on stock buybacks, you know what? It can afford to pay its workers better wages and benefits with safe working conditions." And I agree with that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think just the only final thing is, if they do go on strike, Kroger's in a lot of places, and a lot of stores have different names and different like product they hold different products. So there's like Kroger products, but anyway, just saying, keep your eye out for where those strikes are actually happening, so you know where to avoid, where you can't shop, because it's not just like the Kroger shop in your town that is closing. Oftentimes, like I said, in LA, it was Food for Less, things like that. So we'll definitely be good to know where you should shop and where you should not.
Thank you. Yes, my producers wanted to make sure that I can see this, have made it the biggest font that has ever existed. Harris Teeter, Fred Meyer, Ralph's, not Ralph's. I like Ralph's, but yes. Ralph's so and there's a 25 total brands in this chain. So yes, thank you to the producers for doing that. Okay, and good luck to the workers. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.